Been traveling to Nigeria, so that's why you see me like a Nigerian. I'm working in Nigeria, and right now I'm representing Nigeria. I've been invited to this forum as Dr. Vanessa, as a senior lecturer at the University of Africa, Nigeria, and I'm also a member of the Women Advancement for Economic Leadership Empowerment. I'm a representative, and it's a very international, big organization representing women in Africa, just like we have this international organization. So hence the reason why I'm representing Nigeria this way. I have been told to talk about gender-based violence, GBV. Because I'm a lecturer, usually we have that very bad manners of, not manners really, but our typical way of coming in front of an audience, presenting definitions, discussing, you know, the typical teacher-lecturer way. Then after having a look at all those other presentations, I decided that it should not be this way. It has to be a different way. So that is why I have got my PowerPoint, but I'm not going to read it or discuss it. I'm just going to share my experience, because I feel it's going to be more enriching, and there are things that I would like to share with you. Just like I told the guy, maybe there is a point in time guys will have to go away from here. I will just need ladies. Sorry for the guys. There is a sensitive video which I would like to share with my ladies friends to make them realize what is happening in Africa. And this is a video which I don't want to share, I cannot share. It was shared in my group, but it's important to sensitize ladies what is happening. It is too sensitive, and I was hesitating to put that into my file. Anyway, nobody will get that. It's in the group, but it's good for you to see and to know to what extent GBV is getting intense, even in the 21st century. And this is a video that has been shared in my group, my personal group of the OIA, as you can see here. So because I have been asked to talk about GBV, I will just go very quickly on and show that on the term, on the concept itself. What is GBV? We have got so many definitions of GBV, but we know that GBV, gender-based violence, it's about violence involving men and women, and by coincidence I just said that, and it looks like GBV. It's like the initial of my name, G Gayatri, B Kubi Vanessa. So I really hate that, but unfortunately it's like that. It's my initial, it's my names, you see. So when I'm talking about GBV, I'm talking about everything that happens around the world between men and women, women and men, violence, whatever. It's written there. I'm not going to read it. I will go to the very most important points, because there are some more important things to discuss about. We have the definitions of the United Nations, which says that GBV is any act of gender-based violence that results in or is likely to result in physical, sexual, psychological harm or suffering for women, including threats of such acts, whatever. It's a long story, so we all know about it. We have got our definitions. We have got so many definitions. But from my own perspective, from my own experience, I would say that GBV is simply a disease. For me, it is a disease which is caused by a lack of logic, by a lack of situational intelligence, by a lack of vision, by illusion of power and position, emotional insecurity, jealousy, masochism, and so many. So this is my own way of interpreting GBV, because I feel that GBV is something which happens when there is something bad happening in between the man and the woman, especially in between gender, because we are talking about gender-based violence. Gender, man, woman, woman to man, and it can be man to woman or woman to man. We should not be too biased. We are not going to say that we are so victimized always. Sometimes men are also victimized. So this is a bit about the definition which I have from my own experience. And it's important to know that GBV violates a number of universal human rights protected by international instruments and conventions, but we fail to realize that. Because sometimes, many times I would say, as women we do not realize that we have got ways to find solution, but we are so afraid. We don't want to go out, we don't want to speak, we will feel ashamed. What people would say, we have got a big position and oh my God, I'm a beaten woman or whatever. We cannot say that. So we try to camouflage it. We sweep under the carpet, we keep on bearing and bearing and bearing. And it is an issue which needs to be addressed in a responsible manner. And also it's important to know that not all forms of GBV are illegal and reported. You're going to see why I say that in a while. Let's have a look at some reality check. This is not coming from me, obviously I did not do a research on that. I have been drawing from others' research, and we came to realize that 30% of women worldwide have experienced physical or sexual intimate partner violence or sexual violence by non-partner. So these are some of the statistics. You will see that 87,000 women who were intentionally killed globally, more than half were killed by intimate partners or families. I'm sure that just like in Mauritius, I had the opportunity to live in Mauritius, to live in Nigeria, to be in India, to be in so many parts of the world. I had the opportunity also to be in the midst of different level of social development people. For example, some people at the higher level, lower level, mid-level. But I could see that GBV was existing in all levels, at all levels. We cannot say that because we are very rich, we are very emancipated, we have got our husband, we have got a family, so we are safe from GBV. It is not true. This is again some reality check. You can have a look very quickly at it. We have got various types of gender-based violence. It's just like, for the moment, the very first few slides, it's a bit about steering your mind, a bit about what it is. I'm sure that you all know what it is. And maybe, I'm sure in this, I was going to say classroom, in this place, there are some case studies also, I'm sure. Case studies, maybe people have experienced that. So when we talk about GBV, the types of GBV, we have got intimate partner violence, which is very typical, physical, sexual, psychological, economic, oh my god, so many. Sexual coercion, childhood sexual abuse, rape, trafficking, raping conflict situation, acid throwing acid. You know, I've seen that in Indian movies. I saw that. Acid throwing, female genital mutilation, honor killings, dowry death. So these are some of the examples of GBV. Maybe there are other examples also I might not know, but these are the things that I know till now. And it is very horrible, and it's still happening, and we are in the 21st century, and we are all on WhatsApp, and we are all on Facebook. We share everything, but this thing is being, not reported. We have to camouflage it. What the in-laws would say, what family would say. This is a problem. So let's go further. What are the factors causing GBV? Why it happens? Obviously, there's a logic into that. Why it would happen? GBV means violence. Why there's a violence? Because there's a disbalance between the man and the woman and the man. And most of the time, I am not a fool. I go on the road and start beating someone, unless I am an addict, like a psycho. Usually it happens between people Just like I mentioned from my own definition, jealousy, maybe the man is earning less, the woman is earning more, and the man is no longer happy now. How can she earn more than me? She's taking herself for what? So many things. So, factors causing GBV, we have got breaking social system and family issues. When I'm talking about family issues, it's about just what I said, alcohol and drug, obviously, lack of education. Sometimes people, they are not educated enough. I won't say all the people are educated, I would say, but they are not having that education which is needed to make them understand that we are living in an open society. We need to respect women. Women and men, they are equal. We are all contributing towards the benefit of the house, towards the well-being of the house. It's no longer that the lady is going to stay at home and the man is going to work, and he comes back, the lady will have to just serve, like, service, servitude. So this is a lack of education at the moment. Income and socio-economic position, I just talked about it. Poverty, of course, sometimes because of poverty, we have that GBV because the man is no longer having money. He's going to just vent his frustrations on the woman. The woman is a weaker person, so obviously they vent frustration. Or lack of police protection and support from institutions. This is also another reason. So why you're going to see that I am having a tendency and inclination towards the woman. Sorry, the three little guys there. It's simply because I am, I don't know, I have experienced so many people that I don't want to really share it. I am a case study, guys. I'm a case study. Whatever I'm telling you is coming from my heart. It's my own experience. If I start telling you my story, you won't believe. You won't believe I'm telling you who I am, what happened in my life. It's really terrible, but I just don't care. I am what I am, and I made myself the way I am, and I'm very proud of whatever I am. You will not realize I went through what, but I don't want to say. I really don't want to say. Just know that whatever I'm saying, I'm showing you, it's kind of a reflection of my life. That's why maybe this is the reason why I joined that organization. I'm not against men, but I don't know, there's a kind of apprehension. But not all the men are like that. I am being very apprehensive, and I report a resolution inside if I see someone treating women differently, or I don't know what happens, as if it's fire inside me, and I just want to I don't know how to explain that, but because I have gone through that, I know what it is. So this is a bit about, now let's talk a bit about attitude. Still, we're talking about attitudes toward GBV. There are some people, when you talk about GBV, they don't want to accept it. They say, no, this is my wife, I have the right to be my wife. What is your problem? You're not supposed to get inside a couple. Who you are, you're an outsider. Then I reply to that person, yeah, this is your wife, but first I have got a first relationship with your wife. She's a girl just like me. So this is the very first relationship. Then she becomes your wife. So many times it happens, you know. Notion that there are just causes of violence, this is another attitude. We have got stereotypes. Blaming the victim for the violence received, which means that the girl has been raped because she is not properly dressed. There is GBV because of this. She has been provoking. But what about your mind? You should have control your mind. Why the girl should have to control her dressing, what, not your mind? It means there's something wrong in your mind. So these are things that happen, unfortunately. And this is a picture of my girls in Nigeria. These are two girls. They were wandering, and I had a video of them. Yes, I could not put the video here. These are two girls. These are my pictures. It's not coming from the internet. And they are selling fruits. I am asking them, but why are you, it happened 2 weeks ago. Why are you selling fruits? What are you doing? The mothers are sending the little girls to sell fruits and vegetables or whatever at the university. And I told all my students, don't buy from those girls, don't encourage them. They have to go to school. The problem is coming from the mother. The mother is making them do all the work, and the mother is planning to marry the two little girls. And I was so angry, so angry. Why? Because for them it's a shortcut. Now, based on that, I came across something, and I want to share that with you. Because I'm in India, I'm going to share that for India, and because I am from Africa, I'm going to share for Africa also. So I would say that India will become a more developed country when we will spend more money on our daughter's education than on her wedding. Because this is happening, still happening in India. People are more interested to marry their daughters. Instead of marrying the daughter, save your money, educate your daughter, make her stand on her own feet, give her an identity. Then automatically she will get somebody of a position. Why are you forcing your child to marry at the age of 15? You're so worried. Oh my God, she's 30. Oh my God, I've seen that yesterday. I saw that, and I was, you know, my blood was bubbling. This is my dialogue. My blood is bubbling. Why do you want to marry that girl? I have got so many kids that this is my own environment. This is for India. Now for Africa, I would say that Africa will be more developed country when mothers will stop their little girl to work like this and encourage them to bear babies. This is happening in Africa, still happening in Africa. These two little girls, you might not be surprised, maybe next month when I see them, maybe one of them might be pregnant, or I don't know. Because they are doing crazy things and I don't like. And I'm trying to see how I can help them. Because they are also, the mothers are also facing GBV, I would say. Because their husband, they don't have husband. Usually in Africa, most of the people, most of the ladies, they are single mothers. I don't know. They don't get married, they are pregnant every time, and I don't know, there are so many things happening in Africa. And it's like this, and it's also one of the goals of gender violence. Now, I'm sorry, I have got a very, very sensitive video, which you really need to know, ladies. Guys, please, just give us like 1 look. Or close your eyes, just see at the back. I cannot show that to you. It's going to be lack of respect, but it's important for you to know. You have to stop that video, please.
Like I think we should see.
No, the man, no, I cannot. If you see the video, you would say, yourself, you would say, no, the man should not. You will be embarrassed. You will be embarrassed, yeah. I will be embarrassed. Only the women can see that. No, you do not leave. You just maybe close your eyes. Just check on. Yeah, please. And don't put that video here because it's not ethical. As a woman, I don't like this. We should not expose others. Yeah, no, it's something which is official for me. I can show to you, but I cannot allow this. This is what I'm saying. Is it too much? Later they'll edit it. Just for a moment, I want to show you the video to be edit or just like 2 seconds. Maybe 2 seconds.
वीडियो स्टॉप कर दो 2-3 सेकंड के लिए स्टॉप फोन कर देंगे स्टॉप
You're choking. Is it stop?
Yeah. You can play.
But you should know solidarity among women is even more important. I feel that among everything solidarity is, because sometimes one woman will be the enemy of another woman. This happened. That video that you saw, what happened? If that other woman would have said no, why are you attacking that other woman? You should attack your own husband. Yeah. It would have been different. So that other woman must be very happy. She's an enemy. Let me finish her. So it's not that. Solidarity is important. I'm going to stop here. Thank you. Because somebody has been asking me.
Okay, I'll just take this one. How many of you went and talked this morning? All of you, okay. So I won't repeat that. You can hear me fine?
No, I think you should repeat it, yeah.
I should repeat?
Okay,
I'll do it.
not there, but I think that was not for the video, right? Yeah.
For the video, okay. So this morning I talked about my story, what I went through from the age of 18. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit and tell you what happened when I was born. Because the session is titled End Gender-Based Violence, Mom had a few girls by the time I came, and there were 2 brothers only. So she was really expecting a boy, and I came along. Mom went into depression. I was rejected right at birth. My dad hired a nanny, and for several years I believed she was my mom. I thought my dad had 2 wives. But 2 years after I was born, Mom had another baby, and it was a boy. Dad had given me the name Kamal. When the boy came, my brother came along, my name was given to him. So I grew up nameless. When I was writing, I'm going to go back and forth a bit, okay. So when I was writing my second book, I was looking for a title, because my first book, Black and Blue Sari, really, the title matched the story. Because throughout my life, for 15 years with my abuser, I was black and blue. And the sari had become my covering. My covering enabled him, enabled his behavior. So when I was looking for the title for my second book, all of a sudden, it just hit me. I was having coffee with a friend and I said to her, Lido, I can't figure out, Overcomer, this, that. Many titles popped in. And she goes, but you look more confident now. And I went home and I thought, I found my title. I found me. I am now. And that's the name of my book. Survivor to Thriver. For those that want me to repeat my story, from the age of 18, and I didn't mention this earlier,
From the day that I got married, few hours into my marriage, my drunk husband came into the room, violently raped me, sodomized me, and took me to the emergency. For the first time in my life, I heard the word rape. I just thought that rape meant someone on Hastings Street in Vancouver that was doing this as a business, that was now raped by somebody. I didn't know that this existed between a man and a woman. That became my life for the next 15 years. There were times in my life when my husband tried to kill me. One time, he asked me a question. By this time, I had 2 kids. He said, "Do you love me?" I wanted to lie, but I stayed quiet. Then he said, "Do you love the children?" Of course, what mother doesn't? So his next questions were, if you love the children, are you willing to do anything for them? And I said, yes, I am. Little did I know what his suggestion was. If you love the kids and you're willing to do whatever it takes, then would you be willing to die for them? Are you willing to kill yourself? The moments following that, he brought in a bottle of Lysol. Lysol is a disinfectant that you clean. Told me to drink it. I did, because I only thought he was joking. Then he grabbed me by my hair, tilted my head, and opened the bottle. A lot of the poison went in, some came out. So here's what I'm going to switch into mental abuse. So when he knew that enough liquid had gone in, he phoned the ambulance and the police. Can you please hurry up? My wife is trying to kill the children, and she's also trying to kill herself. Can you please come save us? So then the police and the ambulance get there. The ambulance took me to the hospital. By the time I got to the scene by the ER nurses, he had already talked to them. And you see, you'll never be able to recognize an abuser, even if there is one sitting next to you, because they have such a pretty face. They act so kind in public. Right? Once you close the doors, it's a different story. So he's showing his charm. What a nice guy. What a caring guy. He's got 2 little kids. What a poor dad. Poor husband. What did this miserable wife do to him? So by the time the nurse got to me, she's looking for my vein. She goes, "You naughty girl. You naughty girl. How could you do this to your husband? He's such a nice guy. How could you do this?" I was so burnt, I couldn't utter a word that he did it. But then, who was going to listen to me? Another form of mental abuse. About 3 years into my marriage, shortly after this Lysol incident, he took me. He wasn't satisfied. See, my husband wanted me dead. Secretly, I wanted to live. And so I numbed my body. I zoned out the feelings, because if I felt, that means I had to react. And my reaction probably would have been, by the end of the marriage, kill him. That would be the only way to defend myself. I knew I'd never be free. I'll leave the Q&A for the end, okay? So he took me to the doctor and said, initially said that the appointment was for the kids, for a checkup. So we get to the doctor's office, and we all know that the doctor's clinics is always busy. So we found a seat in the end, and he leans over, whispers to me and says, "Tell the doctor everything." I said, "No, the kids are fine." He said, "No, about you." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The voices you're hearing." I said, "What voices?" He goes, "That one." And so when you are defending yourself, obviously your voice goes up. So then he looks around to the patients and said, "Sorry, she's a bit off." I go, what do you mean? He goes, that. See, the voice is telling you something now. Tell the doctor that voice tells you to kill us. So by this time I knew that I was straight. This was a setup. So I tried to pick up the kids and leave, and the doctor came running, they locked me in the office. The only way to escape was admit that I was hearing voices, admit that he's straight, and be willing to take Valium. Charmers will influence, will tell you that they are the victims. But 15 years later, I had lost my identity. That's one thing they do, is they rob your identity. I was isolated. My own parents abandoned me. And I talked about this very briefly earlier. One of the things that my dad said after my husband was let go from police custody for threatening to kill me. My dad invited him back to come talk, and he convinced my dad that there was something wrong with me, that every time he tries to discipline me or do something nice for me, I call the police. So Dad told me to go back and live with him, like an Indian woman. I said, but Dad, he does this and this and this. And he said, I'll come get you, baby. I will come one day and get you. I said, when, Dad? He said, I'll come for your body. I'll come for your body. And I turned around, went close to my dad, looked him in the eye and said, "Nee, Papa, he didn't kill me. You just did. You just killed me. Don't come for my body. Somebody will get rid of me." And that day, I ended the relationship with my family. I was already dead to them. I'm going to talk very briefly about where am I today. I've worked very hard. I've had 10 multiple jaw surgeries. I still have to go through more surgeries. I have had heart conditions. I've had many other major operations. Intestines cut out, 6 feet of it, all due to the trauma that I suffered. It has scarred me probably for life. I'm not bitter. That's one thing I want to make very clear, is I forgave. The reason I forgave my abusers, all of them, was because I wanted to live. And I knew solidarity among women is even more important. I feel that among everything, solidarity is, because sometimes one woman will be the enemy of another woman. This happened. That video that you saw, what happened? If that other woman would have said, no, why are you attacking that other woman? You should attack your own husband. Yeah. It would have been different. So that other woman must be very happy. She's an enemy. Let me finish her. So it's not that. Solidarity is important. I'm going to stop here. Thank you. Because somebody has been asking.
How many of you went and talked this morning? All of you, okay. So I won't repeat that. You can hear me?
No, I think you should repeat it, yeah.
I should repeat?
Okay,
I'll
but not there. I think that was marked for the video, right? Yeah.
For the video, okay. So this morning I talked about my story, what I went through from the age of 18. But I'm going to backtrack a little bit and tell you what happened when I was born. Because the session is titled End Gender-Based Violence. Mom had a few girls by the time I came, and there were 2 brothers only. So she was really expecting a boy. And I came along. Mom went into depression. I was rejected right at birth. My dad hired a nanny, and for several years I believed she was my mom. I thought my dad had 2 wives. But 2 years after I was born, Mom had another baby, and it was a boy. Dad had given me the name Kamal. When a boy came, my brother came along, my name was given to him. So I grew up nameless. When I was writing, I'm going to go back and forth a bit, okay? So when I was writing my second book, I was looking for a title, because my first book, Black and Blue Sari, really, the title matched the story. Because throughout my life, for 15 years with my abuser, I was black and blue. And the sari had become my covering. My covering enabled him, enabled his behavior. So when I was looking for the title for my second book, all of a sudden, it just hit me. I was having coffee with a friend, and I said to her, Lito, I can't figure out, Overcomer, this, that. Many titles popped in. And she goes, but you look more confident now. And I went home and I thought, I found my title. I found me. I am man. And that's the name of my book. Survivor to Thriver. For those that want me to repeat my story, from the age of 18, and I didn't mention this earlier, from the day that I got married, few hours into my marriage, my drunk husband came into the room, violently raped me, sodomized me, and took me to the emergency. For the first time in my life, I heard the word rape. I just thought that rape meant someone on Hastings Street in Vancouver that was doing this as a business, that was now raped by somebody. I didn't know that this existed between a man and a woman. That became my life for the next 15 years. There were times in my life when my husband tried to kill me. One time, he asked me a question. By this time, I had 2 kids. He said, do you love me? I wanted to lie, but I stayed quiet. Then he said, do you love the children? Of course, what mother doesn't? So his next questions were, if you love the children, are you willing to do anything for them? And I said, yes, I am. Little did I know what his suggestion was. If you love the kids and you're willing to do whatever it takes, then would you be willing to die for them? Are you willing to kill yourself? The moments following that, he brought in a bottle of Lysol. Lysol is a disinfectant that you can. Told me to drink it. I did, because I only thought he was joking. Then he grabbed me by my hair, tilted my head, and opened the bottle. A lot of the poison went in, some came out. So here's what I'm going to switch into mental abuse. So when he knew that enough liquid had gone in, he phoned the ambulance and the police. Can you please hurry up? My wife is trying to kill the children, and she's also trying to kill herself. Can you please come save us? So then the police and the ambulance get there. The ambulance took me to the hospital. By the time I got to the scene by the ER nurses, he had already talked to them. And you see, you'll never be able to recognize an abuser, even if there is one sitting next to you, because they have such a pretty face. They act so kind in public. Right? Once you close the doors, it's a different story. So he's showing his charm. What a nice guy. What a caring guy. He's got 2 little kids. What a poor dad. Poor husband. what did this miserable wife do to him? So by the time the nurse got to me, she's looking for my vein. She goes, "You naughty girl, you naughty girl. How could you do this to your husband? He's such a nice guy. How could you do this?" I was so burnt, I couldn't utter a word that he did it. But then, who was going to listen to me? Another form of mental abuse. About 3 years into my marriage, shortly after this Lysol incident, he took me. He wasn't satisfied. See, my husband wanted me dead. Secretly, I wanted to live. And so I numbed my body. I zoned out the feelings. Because if I felt, that means I had to react. And my reaction probably would have been, by the end of the marriage, kill him. That would be the only way to defend myself. I knew I'd never be free. I'll leave the Q&A for the end, okay? So he took me to the doctor and said, initially said that the appointment was for the kids, for a checkup. So we get to the doctor's office, and we all know that the doctor's clinics is always busy. So we found a seat in the end, and he leans over, whispers to me and says, "Tell the doctor everything." I said, "No, the kids are fine." He said, "No, about you." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "The voices you're hearing." I said, "What voices?" He goes, "That one." And so when you are defending yourself, obviously your voice goes up. So then he looks around to the patient and said, "Sorry, she's a bit off." I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "That. See, the voice is telling you something now. Tell the doctor that voice tells you to kill us." So by this time I knew that I was straight. This was a setup. So I tried to pick up the kids and leave, and the doctor came running. They locked me in the office. The only way to escape was admit that I was hearing voices, admit that he's right, and be willing to take Valium. Traumas will influence, will tell you that they are the victims. But 15 years later, I had lost my identity. That's one thing they do, is they rob your identity. I was isolated. My own parents abandoned me. And I talked about this very briefly earlier. One of the things that my dad said after my husband was let go from police custody for threatening to kill me, my dad invited him back to come talk. And he convinced my dad that there was something wrong with me, that every time he tries to discipline me or do something nice for me, I call the police. So Dad told me to go back and live with him, like an Indian woman. I said, "But Dad, he does this and this and this." And he said, "I'll come get you, baby. I will come one day and get you." I said, "When, Dad?" I said, "I'll come for your body. I'll come for your body." And I turned around, went close to my dad, looked him in the eye and said, "Nee, Papa, he didn't kill me. You just did. You just killed me. Don't come for my body. Somebody will get rid of me." And that day, I ended the relationship with my family. I was already dead to them. I'm going to talk very briefly about where am I today. I've worked very hard. I've had 10 multiple jaw surgeries. I still have to go through more surgeries. I have had heart conditions. I've had many other major operations. Intestines cut out, 6 feet of it, all due to the trauma that I suffered. It has scarred me probably for life. I'm not bitter. That's one thing I want to make very clear, is I forgave. The reason I forgave my abusers, all of them, was because I wanted to live. And I knew that as long as I was drinking the poison and hoping they would die, I was killing myself. So it was really easy for me, I guess. The day that my husband was cremated, I cremated him. I broke every cultural norm there, and I said, I will do it. When I went around with the torch, and I heard sparks, and I heard sounds in the fire, it felt like, there goes my starvation, there goes my hanging, there goes this. It was almost like I was bringing everything out and burning it with him. That day, before I burnt him, not nice, pleasant words came out of my mouth or in my thoughts, and I will be very open with you. I said, just before I lit the body, I said, you son of a bitch, you SOB, you wanted me here, but God turned it around, and you are there, I'm here. I will live, and I choose to forgive you, because from this day forth, I will live, and I will speak, and I will be the voice to those that don't have one. I will become the poster child of domestic violence, the face of violence. You know, for years, people that knew me would say to me, your face is deformed. My mother said that for many years. But that scars, those cuts, is what tells you a story of hope. Where am I today? My 3 children are married, have children of their own. My youngest is a police officer. My younger daughter, her husband is a sergeant with the police. My oldest daughter speaks with me. My other son still has a bit of challenges, but I love him. I have gone with this story to nations. I've debated with our Prime Minister in Ottawa. My story in the previous government had a bill passed that no one will be forced into marriage in another country, especially in India. About 3 weeks ago, I shared this stage with Sushmita Sen, your Miss Universe. Even if somebody said this will come true one day, where I'd be sitting with royalties, I would never have believed. But I'm a believer in God, and I know that God is not done with me. There's more to this. My daughter, when she speaks with me, a lot of people want to know, how did the children survive?
No, even I don't know.
Why did you ask me that? My children also, people ask me, were they abused? And then I ask a question back. When you tell a child to sit and watch their mother getting beat down, when you tell that child, you hit your mother this way, and if they don't do it, they get punished, I think that's more than child abuse. I don't call my abuse abuse. I call it torture, and I call my husband, my abuser, a terrorist. Because a terrorist isn't one that lives in a country and bombs a certain place. Terrorist is the one that is terrorizing you. He may not be terrorizing a nation, but he's terrorizing you. My children had a very tough life. They were taken away from me. My younger 2, I didn't see them. They didn't know. When I kidnapped them 2.5 years later in India and then smuggled them to Canada, they didn't want to be with me. They were creating a scene. When I calmed them down, I said, I am your mother. They said, no. Daddy told us that your mother died in jail. This kid, from the age of 3 till 5.5, thought that they didn't have a mother, that she was dead and he is a ghost. How could they trust? It took them years to really believe that I was their mother. So, and my son someday still jokes, are you really a mother? My children went through a lot of counseling. We did individual counseling, we did group counseling, we did art therapies, whatever there was out there. Shamelessly I went to because I wanted to remove the stigma that dysfunctional families produce dysfunctional children. We as single parents can bring up good, well-meaning, productive children. And that's what my son is doing. No one ever gave to us, but my son, he works 12-hour shifts, day and night. And he said to me, Mom, when I go out there and I go to a domestic call, I treat each woman like my mother because I know pain. See, pain pushes us to do things. Pain can push you to addictions, can push you to make you a better person. And I chose to be that better person. I want to encourage you all, when people say, why didn't you talk about it? Why didn't you tell anybody? Here's the thing. My silence was speaking. It was speaking loud. It was speaking very clearly. Question is, were you listening? So when you go in the bathroom next time, oftentimes I've observed it, I've done it too, we're holding our phone. We're on it, we wash our hands, we put our makeup on, back to our phone, and we walk out. Next time, when you go to the bathroom, put your phone away. Maybe there is a victim in there hiding. Take a moment to say, hi, you okay? Had somebody asked me those questions, maybe I wouldn't be here with a broken jaw. Maybe they would have saved my life a bit earlier. See, another thing in my face is I had lost 4 teeth in this kicking, punching. I spit it out. When I was hanging at the ocean, in the middle of the night, any moment I could let go. And that would be the end of me. He would have gone on. But something fought in me. When he kicked my face, I felt my jaw crack. He said to me, call your mother. Call your mother. And I'm in this country and my mother's in Vancouver. When I screamed, he said, oh, no one's coming, maybe call your lover. And I thought, who could that be? Apparently in his mind, the police officer that arrested him became my lover because he was arrested. So I screamed, yelled, just so that if I did what he said, he might not beat me up anymore. And a strange voice responded after many echoes. Even that was comforting. And then this voice called back and said, I'm coming. Then I saw a light shine. And I thought at that time, it's the UFO. And I thought they sucked him. Then I thought maybe it's my turn. While all this were happening, my poor little babies were in the car. When I was dragged out of the car, I waved goodbye to them. They closed their eyes. Because they knew this is the last time they were seeing their mom. As I walked to the end of that pier, to the middle of the ocean, I mumbled, hoping my children would hear me. I was saying, my babies, after this, we won't have each other. My youngest was 2 years old. And I kept saying, this is not my will. I wanted to see you grow up. I wanted to see you graduate. I wanted to see you get married, have children. But my babies, would you be there for each other? Boys, protect your sisters. Don't let them become its next victims. Then I cried a last tear and said, Mom, Dad, do you know where your little girl is right now? She's being led to the slaughter. Forgive me. Today, I've moved past, but when I talk about my children, I do get emotional. I'm no longer a victim. I am here to show you that there is a better life after abuse. Don't give up, because the world's given up on you. But you don't give up. You fight. Fight. Remember that you are worth so much more than what others have defined you. The labels that were given to me by him, by others, I stripped them off and gave myself new labels. I am a warrior. I am, come on, I am more than what you made me. And I will fight and continue to fight, continue to speak out. And I will say to you, when you want to give up, just remember why you held on for so long. There's a reason. With that, I want to thank you all. I don't know if I have any time for questions or comments. Do I? But I was in Vancouver. I grew up in Vancouver. I got married in Vancouver. But almost 4 years into the marriage, he lied to me and said, we're going for a holiday. We went for a holiday. But those days, you know, you had printed tickets with many. I never saw the ticket. Once we were finishing our holiday, he said, why don't we go to India too while we're here? You know, you've never met my mom and dad, the family. This would be a good chance. And I thought, because they were so well known here, and I thought they had respect, they were members of the British Empire, I just thought maybe it'll be a good idea to go see them and tell them what happened. The day we got there, they asked me for my passports. They said, and I thought it was for safekeeping because they had loved me, gave it to them. And it was a celebration actually. My mother-in-law and father-in-law took me, the kids, outside to the fire pit and threw all our documents into the fire. And that's why I was held a prisoner here for the next 4.5 years. Sorry? So when I escaped, I couldn't take the kids. They took the kids, they gave me the choice. They said, if you want to leave, you leave. We won't stop you, but you cannot take the kids. These are our kids. So for a while, for at least 2 weeks, I stayed behind because I couldn't leave my kids. I'm going to be really open with my story. The reason I left my kids was that he sodomized me in front of the children. And I could not bear to put my children through that. I left my children. I can still, 20-some years later, I can still hear their screams in my ear. I can still feel their hands around my legs begging me to put them in my suitcase, that they will always be good kids. That they were very sorry. They made me cry many times, but just to take them and put them in the suitcase. I left. And that day, my husband's voice came back echoing so loud, saying, you're a bad mother. You will even abandon your kids. All those bad things, he said to me, became alive that day. And I felt like a mother who had abandoned her children to save herself. But there was something in me that said, go back. Come back for them. The day that I kidnapped my children and took them to Vancouver, I didn't care if I was living in the slums. I didn't care if I had to beg welfare, because I was the richest woman who had all her children. Because if you lose your children, you don't see your children for a day, moms and dads, they're feeling. Do you imagine if you were children, never see them again? And we continue to maintain that relationship where I have to say a hi to them at least once a day. Anyone else? We did a lot of self-talk. We all grew up together. In fact, it was actually Prince William that said, Miss Dillon, you never had a childhood. You never had a youth. You never wore a wife. You never had a husband. But I hope you have a life now. When my children and I were safe, we began every night to pray together, to play together, to share. One thing we all decided was we were never going to bring him up or bash him, because he was our pastor. We were moving ahead, and I was going to put a new life in front of us.
So this guy never followed you back to stand back?
No, he did. To avoid more charges and child support, he escaped, came back here, and here he was found dead. He was found dead with the same injuries that I had. He had a broken jaw, he had both eyes missing, he had all of this crushed. He was found in the same water, around the same area that he was trying to drown me. I believe so. I believe our next session is here. I will be speaking 2 more times, I think tomorrow and day after. If I find me in the hallway, do ask. I wish you guys all the best. Please, somebody is being abused, or if there is an abuser, there is help for each one. Encourage them to get help. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Influence you beyond just being a source of entertainment. It has the power to touch a person deeply and bring about that inner transformation. So today's topic is how to fear less and live more. So I'm going to touch upon a few points on that. So I think one of the phrases which I strongly believe in is that you don't know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. So I think a lot of women are nodding their heads here. So sometimes you're put into situations which ordinarily you can't fathom that you would be able to deal with. But if you don't have a choice and you're in that situation, you will find a way to deal with it. So let's take a little bit a look at fear. Where does that come from, and what can we do to deal with it in our lives so that we can live a life where we hold our heads up high and go into any situation fearless. So I'm going to talk about 2 points in my life where I experienced such a situation and how I overcame that. So the first point was I actually am an IT engineer, so I was trained in computer engineering, and I embarked on a career which took me to America on work, where I was working with a high-end fashion retailer. And I decided at some point in my journey that this is not my life's calling. and I would like to do something in my life where I can work directly with people and use my gift of music to connect with people. So I decided to take this bold decision to quit my job. And for everybody, for those of you who are Indian and from a lot of other countries, the dream is to go to, like once you go to America, like most Indians be like, you go there, you settle there, don't come back. You're earning in US dollars and $1 is equal to like 75 Indian rupees. So who wants to like, come back to India and work? But so a lot of people questioned me when my friends, my family, and a lot of people in my life basically told me that you're nuts and you've got such a great opportunity. Not many people get to go to America and work, and why would you do something like that? So I was very afraid of taking that leap of faith, because when you take a leap of faith into the unknown, it's like I went, and what changed my life at that point was I decided to go skydiving. And I was like, man, I'm in America, I have to do sky, because nobody trusts like the skydiving people in India, like the security standards and all. You're like, okay. Anyway, so I decided to go to America and do skydiving there. And the minute I entered, I saw the sign right in front of me that says, take risks not to escape life, but to prevent life from escaping. Which again, I'll repeat that, it said, take risks not to escape life, but to prevent life from escaping. And suddenly, like at that moment, like everything fell into place, and I had to sign this whole like waiver which described like 15 ways I was going to die. And I had to say, I'm okay with this, man. Like I'm saying that I'm giving you my permission that if I fall out of the plane and I'm mangled in wires, it's not your fault, and I take responsibility. So while signing this thing, we went up in that plane and it was time to jump. And I was like, till then I was really enjoying that, oh, I'm like in a plane, I'm going to jump into the air and skydive. The moment when the door of the plane opened and I was standing there and it was just me and nothing and like 10,000 feet of nothingness below me, that's when I was afraid. And I was like, oh my God, and every instinct in my body was saying, don't jump, because it's like you're jumping, you could die. But the minute, the guy behind me was like, if you don't jump, I'm going to push you out. So I was like, okay. So I closed my eyes and I just leaped. And the moment I did that, the sense of like pure exhilaration which was there, I'll never forget that adrenaline rush that stayed with me for the next 2 weeks. And I realized that in our own lives, what is it that's stopping you from taking that one leap of faith from where you are to where you could be? What is that one thing that's stopping you? Because the minute you realize, and that's the fear of the unknown. And where does that fear come from? It either comes from like a past experience, say like, oh, somebody's done this before and they've died, so I could die, right? So something that comes from the past, or what could happen to me if imagine scenarios in your mind happen. So you imagine scenarios that could happen to you. So your fear is either coming from the past or the future. So imagine that this is your past and this is your future, and the minute, and this is your mind that's flitting about from your past to the future, from the past to the future, and the minute you drop both of these, you're still, right? And that's the secret. When you're in the present and you own your present moment, you just think about what am I going to do in this instant, and not like think about what happened or what could happen, what will they say, I'm a failure, I failed before, can I really do this? Our own inner critic, we have to silence that, because sometimes that can be your biggest critic, is not other people, but what you're telling yourself inside. And the minute you just drop that and look at what is it I can do in just this moment, carpe diem, you seize that, just that moment. That's when you have no fear. And that's when you can like live fearless with anything. The second thing is that, so one was this, so that's when I decided, I went back and I decided that I had given my letter of resignation, and I decided to come back to India and start, performing as a musician. And I also started doing experiments with sound, and then we decided to start my journey as an entrepreneur over here. And of course, it's not easy, and leaving a cushy job, and all of you are entrepreneurs here, so I'm so sure you've been through that journey yourself. But I think that if you're a caterpillar, and if you don't want to become a butterfly, you know that you have to accept change, you have to embrace change to want to become a butterfly. So I think part of the journey is knowing that just because you're a caterpillar, don't think that you're going to be a caterpillar the rest of your life. If you don't embrace change, you'll never know that you can fly. And so that the secret of embracing change, living in the moment. The second thing which I was afraid of was a toxic relationship I was in. And I'm sure like at some point in our lives, for the average woman, everyone has been through some form of a relationship which you're afraid to step out of, because especially in India, there's a whole stigma around divorce and around, oh my God, you're like second-hand goods if you're divorced, or if you've been in a relationship and you're abusive. It's like men are like that, just deal with it, right? I know we had a really heavy topic right before this, so I don't want to get to, but this is the reality, unfortunately, that a lot of people will stay quiet about what they're going through because they want everyone to think they're leading a perfect life, and they would rather not accept that, it's okay if something's not going your way. Having the courage to step out of it. And I think that the whole journey of me going from being afraid to stepping out was when I recognized my sense of self-worth. And that is something that's so important for all of us as women, is to recognize your value as a person. And if anybody in this world can't respect that or doesn't see that in you, then you ask them to wear glares if they can't take your shine. If you're shining too bright, you wear the sunglasses, I'm not going to stop shining, right? So let's all give all of you wonderful women a round of applause for that. So I think owning the courage to overcome that fear and step out of any relationship or at anybody in your life is making you feel that's toxic for yourself, is to recognize and acknowledge and honor your value as an individual. And the minute you start loving yourself and respecting your own self, you'll notice that everybody in your life will be doing that, and the ones who don't do that, they don't deserve to be in your life anyway. So own and acknowledge that. So just to summarize, so then I decided to step out of that relationship, and I found myself growing in a lot of ways. And I decided that I'm going to be kind to myself, and that has definitely helped me grow as a person and to live a life that's more free and where I can be myself and live without fear. Because I think more than your relationship with anybody else, it's your relationship with your own self that's so important, and that we so often, we let other people dictate how we should be feeling, or we give our power to other people. Then it's like you're a puppet, like in the hands of other people's words and their actions. But the minute you're at peace and you're centered and you have a beautiful relationship with your own self, then nothing else matters. And when you come from that space of clarity, there's this saying in Hindi which says, "Sabse bada rog kya kahenge log," which means that the biggest disease is what will people say. Before we do anything, we're like, "Log kya kahenge?" That means what are people gonna say? But none of that matters when your relationship with yourself and what you're saying is true and you're authentic to your own self. We all are capable, and we all have that inner spark and that beauty inside all of us that we often don't acknowledge. So my only learning from my own journey would be that, stand in front of the mirror today when you go back home and look at your own self and say, "I love you." Say your name and say, "I love you, I really, really love you." And just do that. And this is what Louis Hay recommends. Many of you have heard of Louis Hay, do that. And if you sense an emotion that that means that there is some part of you which you haven't accepted yet and which you need to work on. So when you are able to look at yourself in the mirror without flinching and smiling and looking at that person, embracing that, every part of that person, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, that's when you know that your relationship with yourself is authentic. And there's this beautiful song by India Ari, so I'm going to sing a few lines for you. Okay? So it's called I Am Light.
Yes.
Who wrote it? Can we all sing it together? Yeah? Okay. I am light, I am light. So let's all sing that line. I am light, I am light. Let's go. I am light, I am light. I am not the things my family did. I am not the things, voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. Everybody together. I am light, I am light. Let's put our hands together. Everybody. I am light, I am light. And louder, let's go. I am light, I am light. Again. I am light, I am light. I am not the color of my skin. You know the song, right? I want you to come and sing it with me. She knows the song.
I know the chorus, but I'll sing.
Yeah, so please come and sing it because I would love to sing it. Everybody give it up for. Yeah. Okay.
Do you have yours here?
No. Get somebody who can get it. Who can give us a cell phone?
And now, yeah, so the lyrics.
Yeah, then we sing it together, everybody. If I have time, I have time.
You guys, you know how in church they'll read the line.
Yeah, so everybody who has a cell phone, you can bring the lyrics up on the phone and somebody give it to us also.
Fantastic.
Ebo. This is Ebo from Nigeria?
Yes.
Yes. Alright.
Lagos, Nigeria.
Oops.
Okay, the lyrics. Just put I am light lyrics in here.
Okay, so like internet is slow here, but okay, so let's all sing it together, those who have the lyrics. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light. I am not the things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. Everybody, let's go now. I am light, I am light. Everybody, I am light, I am light. I am not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that cause me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. One last time together. I am light. I am light. And now let's sing it like really softly. I am light, I am light.
And really acknowledging that inside.
I am light, I am light. Give it up for a beautiful singer.